right, everybody, welcome to December and another episode of After the Close. With me always going forward is Mr. Thomas Serpico. Thomas, thank you for being back this month.
No problem.
And our guest this month, we have returning guest, Mr. David Spector. We haven't seen you in a while, David. How are you, sir?
Hello, everybody. I have three kids now. Uh, you know, I'm living through the holidays with three kids. That's how it's going.
So am I. What a coincidence.
Suckers.
What was that?
Suckers.
Yeah, you just have your two kids sitting there.
Yeah, I know. Sitting pretty in that pile of gold.
Your pile of gold from only having two kids. I'll tell you, the third kid is expensive. A lot of people don't know. I had three kids, like different ages. Dave, you have twins though. You had twins bringing up the rear, right?
Yeah. Well, first, before we get into my twins, I can't believe you chose to have three kids. It blows my mind.
Not only did I choose to have a third kid, I lost my job and then said, you know what? Let's roll. Let's do it.
That's how it
I
goes.
mean, three kids adds a lot, right? Because, like, a common saying, "It's not man's man anymore; it goes to zone," right? And it's, to your previous point, crazy expensive. So we were thinking about sending our kids to daycare or like having a nanny because the nanny is pretty expensive and we live in a high cost of living area. And sending them to daycare would have been more expensive than a nanny, which blows my mind.
I am not surprised at all. I don't know exactly. Well, you would have paid for it's three daycares versus a nanny, right? For you?
No, 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 no. Our older daughter is going to go to daycare no matter, or like school now. No
Oh,
matter what.
okay. Got it.
Just for those two kids, it's more expensive than a nanny for the two kids.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, the cost of it is a killer. We're counting down the number of months we have left where we have two daycare payments, and it will be like I talk to guys who don't have kids, or you see online where the people who are driving around with their fast cars and God knows what, those young whippersnappers. My wife and I could each afford to drive like a super luxury car if we weren't making the monthly daycare payments for each of our kids. You know what I mean? Like swap out the kid for a Maserati payment and it would work. Our budget would be the same.
Yeah, it's insanity, and like it really makes me feel bad for the less fortunate, like people that aren't in as a good position as us, because like there are probably have worse work conditions, right? Because they are like more have to be in the office or at their job and much more strict hours and commitments, and they have less money. So how do you possibly juggle that? I really don't know. I think having kids is the worst idea ever for anyone. I get the first one because it's like you don't know, right? You don't know where you're getting into. But after the first one, you should be like, oh god, no more kids, please.
If well, I mean, everybody. Yes, it's a little. What is it called when you gluttons love punishment? What is it called?
You're
Like
glutton
a
for punishment.
sadomasochist.
You're glutton for punishment? No, but like there's the expression where like people like pain and suffering. I forget.
Like a masochist.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Some of that probably exists. It's also like when like if you get a tattoo, tattoos are similar. People always say that it's really like intimidating to get your first one. But then after you get one, you kind of there's a tendency you either have like none or you have like, 17. There's no in between. Not that I have 17 kids, nor do I want them, but like once you get like one tattoo, then it feels like I get another, or I can get yet another. That's not so bad. I think that's with kids a little bit.
Yeah, it was actually interesting. Like I feel having three or going from one to three, the first kid was still like harder to deal with because you just have no clue of what's going to happen, right? And that first kid completely destroys any semblance of expectations you had in your life and like what you were going to do. And it's great, like it's wonderful. Like I love the kids, but that's a very, I think, hard shift to do. Once you get to three, it's kind of just more of the same, but like harder. So it's like, oh, okay, like I've done this before. It's just a little bit harder now.
Yeah, it's like when you're a professional juggler and you start with like three balls and then you go to four and then you go to like seven. It's like, well, it's still just juggling, but it is harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys do it with three. I think about that all the time, and I think about how we have two kids, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way I can handle having three kids. Like, there's just no way. I couldn't do it, couldn't handle it. I don't know how people do it with three. It's insane. Because we're going through, so like the age gap on ours, like we're very aware of like where this one was, where this one is now, and having to go through that a third time. Holy no, no man, no way. Not a chance.
I say that a lot with the 4-year-olds giving me an attitude about this, that, or the other thing, and I'll look at my wife and just because I'm like holding the baby while she's giving me an attitude, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to deal with this again in 3.5 years.
Right.
Because now I know that I will. Because I remember when the oldest one was 4, she was giving me sass, and you don't at the time you don't know if it's a 4-year-old thing or if you're just raising an asshole.
Right.
Turns out it's both, but we'll see what third time's a charm. Maybe we'll get somebody a little nicer next time.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, that's well. You got to start them. Maybe the athleticism that you're going to drill into them is going to really iron out some of those behavioral issues. Start kicking them the football now, and then that work ethic will chime in, and he won't have time to back talk. He's got to go out and kick his field goals.
I don't know. I feel like somehow I'm going to be raising Lucy and Charlie Brown, but the sisters are not going to treat him well when he's out there kicking that football.
Probably.
So I have boys and girls, and I think you guys have both a mix as well. It's times you two girls. Okay, but maybe you've noticed it at school or daycare. Girls are such more quickly developed in terms of social ability. The boys really are Charlie Brown. They're just out there trying to kick footballs. They have no concept of, is it going to happen again? Am I going to miss? They're just trying to kick, right? They're just running. The girls are like thinking, they're planning, they understand friendships already. Guys, just it blew my mind. I'm very much like equality type person, and I really didn't see it coming. And now I'm like, okay, like girls really are just like much more in tune with social interaction.
Well, you yourself, you only had brothers, right?
Oh, one older brother, yeah.
Yeah, you have one older brother, and like it was for us, it was we were all boys, and so then the girls started pumping out in our family Next Generation, and it was a lot of like, oh shit, what do we do? Like, like I don't know how to raise a little girl. Like it was like I don't know what I'm doing here.
I have two of them, and I still don't know how to raise two little girls.
I'm figuring it out every day.
No, hair is really hard.
Oh, I do the hair. I'll comb their hair. I'll put the ponytail in. I can do all that. Yeah, that's no big deal.
God, I suck so much at hair. So bad. Thank God.
In fairness, you never had much to work with.
No, I didn't. I just it's just whatever. It was just big mat of curly hair on top of my head that is like, all right, what it is today. Cool. And just walked out, left. And all right, what we're doing. But yeah, oh man, that's just so many hair care products and Jesus Christ, man, I don't know. I don't know how to. I gotta learn how to do like a braid. Like, you ever see those videos online of like the single dads and they're going to like the hair class for girls and they're doing all that stuff? Like, I feel like I got to do all that stuff because I'm hopeless. I am so hopeless.
You just look it up on YouTube. It takes 5 minutes. You know what I looked up on YouTube? Lookups are great. You know what I just looked up like 3 hours ago? I looked up how to fix the garbage disposal.
Nice. Oh, big win. Big win.
Pick up both hands. Let's see the hook.
What?
Let's see. Oh, you got both hands. So you did it right.
I'm good. My point is, it took me 5 minutes, and now I know how to do it. I used it just the other day for something the girls needed because my oldest was doing the little like beads on the string to make the bracelets, right? And so then I had to, and it was like late, and I couldn't remember how to do like the right slip knot so that it like opens and closes. So then I Googled it for 2 seconds and I watched the guy do it in a 30-second YouTube clip, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, here you go, it's done.
How did he do that with a garbage disposal?
how many times did you drop the beads? Because I did the same thing for my daughter.
Did I drop the what?
The beads. So you put all the beads on the thing, and you're trying to make that tie, right? And you let go, or it slips, and then all the beads fall off, and you're like, oh, I gotta put them all back on.
Don't you tie one end off first, and then just hold it up?
Okay, I failed many times. I dropped the beads at least 4 times. It's like the shower. It's like, don't drop the soap type thing. Yeah. It's very frustrating.
Now, I don't want to feed a dead horse here, but did you hook up your dishwasher to your garbage disposal?
You know what happened? This is actually true because My dishwasher and the garbage disposals are on the same circuit, like the same switch panel. One switch is for one and the other powers the other. And so sometimes I'll make a mistake and pick the wrong one because it's one of those things that like you'll never remember which one is which. And I inevitably
Yeah.
cut the power to one accidentally. And so those hard cuts eventually will like it'll burn out the motor eventually over time. So on the garbage disposal, the reset button had to be hit. So because I had like done too many flips of the switch on it, as opposed to the dishwasher,
And
which also happens to it.
oh, okay. Just checking. Okay. Well,
Why?
I'm glad that you're embracing the DIY aspect of homeownership.
I still don't really understand why you have a switch for a dishwasher.
Oh, the electric.
No, what am I,
switch.
electrician?
No,
This is
you're
Trader
talking about
Dads,
the
not electrician dads. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, I needed to fix the garbage disposal, so I used the YouTube video to fix the garbage disposal. That's the beginning, middle, and end of this story.
Fair enough.
Jesus Christ, people. So that took a very like therapeutic opening. I appreciate it, guys. But as I was saying, it's December. It's expiration Friday for December here. So we are waiting to see what the predictions are coming in for the year end for the markets. The markets seem to be doing pretty good. I will be having my end of year prediction reveal done. So my question to you guys is, what was the most crazy thing you think has happened this month or this year?
as in the month of December.
No, I mean this year. Like this year. Like what was the most crazy thing that I think came out of this year for you guys? Because I have a whole predictions thing that'll be coming out to explain where I thought the world, was heading and where it actually went.
Oh man, there's a lot of divisive topics that I think you can bring out. Um, Most crazy thing. Oh boy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to spring it so hard on you.
Oh, that's okay.
I've got one that I think the result isn't necessarily that surprising, but how big the result was, or how big of a swing it was.
You're talking about the presidential election.
Yeah. I think everyone saw it as a 50-50 coin toss, right? Like if you're kind of in the know of politics, if you're a gambling person, if you gamble on that type of stuff. And the markets, the gambling markets went very much pro-Trump, and I was thinking that was kind of like an over-adjustment, because there's a lot of like personal bias that kind of plays into it. But then once it all was said and done, basically every single reporting district was more Republican than the previous election, and that was a very, very large surprise.
See, I at the beginning of the year back in January when I posted predictions for the year, one of them was I said Trump would win. I wasn't nearly as surprised. I was pretty positive he was going to win, not because I'm a particular Trump supporter or anything. I didn't have that bias in it. I just understood the just some of the trends. I feel like I saw some of the statistics in like 538.com and how they were trending early on. I saw like the boost across the country for mail-in ballots that the Democrats had in 2020 because of COVID. That was going to wither away. I think there were a lot of just like minor wins that were blowing in Trump's favor that cumulatively added up to a lot. And that's what I had been seeing with that for a while.
Yeah, but it's just like none of the swing states, right? Like I think Arizona, not even Arizona, New Mexico might be the only swing state that went. So it was only like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, one way or the other. But it basically every swing state got blown out by the Trump win. And I don't know. For me, I thought with inflation getting under kind of control, people I think are not the brightest, right? And they see that inflation happened and they don't understand that low inflation doesn't mean a reduction in price. It means a slowness of more increase. So I guess I didn't really think about that.
I think people very much know that that's the case, though.
I know.
So one of the charts that I've thrown it out on Instagram. One of the charts that went out there was how like the rate year-over-year change has gotten back under 3% or right around 3% towards a 2% target by the Fed. But the cumulative change in pricing is up over 20% since 2020. People know that. People understand that. That was like the chart that like I think was floating around when it comes to inflation.
I think they understand those words, but they think that like lower inflation is going to reduce their prices. Like Trump's going to come in and it's going to be like, oh, I have more buying power now because eggs are used to be $4 and now they're 150, right? But that's obviously right, not exactly what's going to happen. And I use eggs as one item, and I understand it's going to be more of a holistic thing. But that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that their dollar is going to go further and that they're no longer kind of falling behind the inflation trend. And that's obviously not going to happen because, if it's deflationary, that's just a bad thing. And I don't think anyone's trying to do that.
Thomas?
I think you severely overestimate people. I think the average person doesn't understand that stuff. And I'm looking at the spectrum, from here to here. I'm talking like people that are on this end, lower half of the spectrum. I think people that are in the finance world, obviously, they understand all that stuff. But I think average Joe, who's working a 9-to-5 job
over here. That's a good point, actually. That the
like people that aren't in tune with that. I think you're looking at it like if this is the actual scope of people. I think you're looking at the scope of people here, and you're saying all of these people understand it, and everybody understands it. No, that's not the case. There's I'd say half the country probably doesn't understand it. So that's my take on that. But yeah, it's gonna get real rough. I think from an economic standpoint, I think it's gonna get real bad to the point where like I'm looking to make massive house purchases like quickly because I'm afraid of how much things are going to go up by.
You're gonna like what kind of purchases?
Like large appliances.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, things are not gonna get cheap for sure. I think though people are overestimating just how much Trump has an influence over some of those things. I'll be honest, I know the tariff thing and all that is going to be inflationary, but I think that a lot of the larger secular trends that were kicking around would have been inflationary regardless of who won. Like I think that's kind of what it boils down to. I have in the Substacks I've referenced Peter Zeihan a lot. He's a geopolitical expert that I follow and listen to a lot, and he's been breaking down a lot of that for like macro trades and stuff. That's where I kind of look at him like, oh, like when I did the coffee, I talked about how coffee prices were going to go up over time and how Arabica coffee was going to be more difficult over time. That's happening. That blew, like if you look at the Arabica coffee chart, that blew right through its double top, and Arabica coffee is now like way up there. Coffee futures would have been a great buy in like 2023. If you'd bought like 2 year out coffee futures, you'd be like, it would have been a fantastic play. But he has pointed out that a lot of the things that are driving inflation are global. They're exogenous. So like Trump's tariffs were just going to be like one more thing on the pile. So a lot of that is what it is, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think we need to get back to the real question at hand here: is what was the most surprising thing that happened in 2024?
Thank you, Thomas. That's what brings us back around. I mean, apparently Dave thinks that it was Trump. I was going to be that AI can tell you what dogs are saying now.
No, definitely wrong. It's that Inside Out 2 unseated Frozen as the highest grossing animated film ever. That is the most surprising thing that happened in 2024. That is what happened. That is hands down.
Is that inflation adjusted?
No, dollar for dollar.
When I had my first internship on a trading floor, I was on the Philex, and so I was like walking around, and we were a bunch of bozos, like 21 years old or whatever else. And then by the time we got to the age of 23 and we were working there, we thought we were like big shots. So the next 21-year-olds came in, and if you ever meet a 20-year-old finance major, you know they're really douchey. And I am guilty of it. Like when I was 20 years old.
I knew you when you were 20 years old.
What?
I knew you when you were 20 years old.
You'll verify?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you when you're 38.
Yeah. So the kids, so we had these kids come in as interns, and they're like learning the basics, and they would always like to throw like stats because it was a time when quant finance was kicking up and like interviews and such. So everyone wants to know their statistics and such. So this kid would like throw all these like oddball statistics about things to try to prove how smart he was and how he could like, normalize figures or like understand like, like the risk of something, like because he has a stronger understanding of probability. Anyway, long story short, he's trying to explain to us how, adjusted for inflation, like Frankenstein, the 1930s Frankenstein movie, is the most popular movie of all time. And at a certain point, we literally just all looked at him and told him to shut the fuck up, like nobody cares anymore. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
So we ended up dealing with him.
I'm vigorously Googling right now, trying to double check his math now.
Vigorously Googling.
Vigorous.
Vigorous.
His fingers
Okay.
are flying.
Yeah, I've done
All right.
some vigorous
Maybe-
googling in my day. You know,
Maybe keep your hands where we can see them, Dave.
It's the future. You just tell the computer what to do now.
yeah, right. Man.
But that's an interesting point, the way you go through it. Inside Out 2 versus, what was it?
Frozen.
Frozen. Okay. So
Frozen 2. Frozen 2 was the one.
Frozen 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
But now, Moana 2 is coming into the fold. Now we got to see what happens there. You know,
Do you think Moana 2 is going to have like real time change? Like, is Moana going to be like 15 years older?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you know, I'm excited. We are that's probably going to be. We were trying to figure out a time where we can take our oldest one to a movie theater to experience that, like, because she likes Moana. She liked the first one, and like that's kind of like a dying thing now. It seems like, is like going to the movie theater. Like, when was the last time you guys went to a movie theater to see a show?
I went to see Star Wars. I think it was The Last Jedi. No, it would have been no, it was The Rise of Skywalker. It was in 2019, and it came out in December. And so when I went there, somebody was doing a local news rep about Christmas shopping. So the last time I went to see a movie, I ended up on the news.
Yeah, well, that was 5 years ago.
It was
Yeah.
5 years ago.
So, right. So, like, what was the last movie you saw?
Deadpool 2 with my now wife.
Oh, Deadpool 2, not Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah, 2018.
Oh my
Again,
god, yeah. So,
vigorous Googling.
yeah, right, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where, like, that experience of going to a movie theater is something that is not something you're gonna do, you know. So that's like an event almost. So, like,
Going to
she's been
Broadway theater.
I mean, but so we're trying to figure out, like, all right, well, one, is it worth it, and two, like, when would we actually go do that? Because between Thanksgiving and Christmas, Thanksgiving's so late this year, the weekends are booked, the holidays. There's so many other things you got to, like, cram in before Christmas, and to get all the holiday stuff in. It's like, squeezing in Moana 2 might not necessarily make it into the cut.
It's so funny you bring this up, because we're filming this on Black Friday, just after Thanksgiving. I had to work Black Friday. My wife and the kids were home. My wife took my two girls to a movie theater today to see Moana 2. I swear to God, it's true. It's seriously. And it was the first time she had been to the movie theater since 2015.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy. It's such a thing. So, like, the last time I went was to go see Avatar 2, but before that was the last Star Wars, like the Rise of Skywalker. So, like, there has to be, like, an event to, like, really be like, oh, I have to go see this in theaters. Like, because honestly, there are movies that came out in theaters that I'm seeing on streaming plus. I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to go see that in theaters. Like, time has just passed me by, and it's just you wait 6 months, 9 months, and it's you can see movies in theaters now from home. Like, you can just rent or buy, like, in theaters. Like, so I don't know how much that costs. What was it, like $25 or whatever to, like, rent a movie that's in theaters?
I have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of this is also we're just not the target market anymore, right? Like,
True.
We're just too old. We
Yeah.
don't have time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have time. But the question is, people with time, do they have the money? Like how much did that cost to go see Moana 2 with 3 people?
That's the other thing I was going to mention, because my wife went and got the tickets online, and they were like, it was matinee pricing. But then my wife's the type of person who has to get, like, the food, right? She doesn't, like, sneak, like, snow caps under her sleeve to go into the movies. No, she's got to go buy the popcorn, all that stuff. The 3 of them went to the movies at matinee. It cost them $100.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, that's crazy.
Like, I mean, they bought like a lot of food, admittedly. Like, she even admitted, like, I went overboard, but still, it's like $100 to go, 3 people to go see Moana 2 matinee. Right.
That's crazy. That's insane. That's just, man, that's crazy. I remember when there was $5 matinees. at the what is it? What the hell was the movie theater in East Brunswick?
Oh,
Mega Movies.
the New Jersey Mallrats movie theater that we used to bum around at in
Yeah,
high
yeah,
school. Yeah,
Mega Movies. Yeah,
Mega Movies. Yeah. Oh, of
yeah,
course. I
$5
remember
you can go
that.
see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
So, as a
Yeah.
quick aside, I want to throw a shout out to cargo pants. They're apparently back in
Oh,
style, and if you need to sneak food into the movies, they're the perfect ones for you.
or a girlfriend with a really big purse.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, no, no. Once I brought Five Guys into it into the movie theater.
Wow.
That was nice. That was good. That was solid. That was a
Mhm.
solid bring with the drinks. With the drinks.
This is quality podcasting. I love the new format we've chosen.
Yeah, well, we had to,
Hmm.
well, you were asking what the most surprising thing in 2024 was, and I personally was shocked that Frozen 2 is knocked off the festival. So, but yeah, the movies, movies are something that come up a lot on this podcast.
Movies are a good undertone of this pop culture. That's the whole topic of last month.
Yeah.
Pop culture is a
Right.
feature, not a bug, my friend.
Yeah, but like it's for $100 for three people to go see Moana 2 is insane, and that to me seems like movie theaters are going to go by the wayside in the near future. Like I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that there's any blockbuster draws that you have to go see it in theaters anymore. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of another kind of movie that you would need like the IMAX experience. Like you're not going to go see a movie like let's say like Wedding Crashers. Like you don't make those anymore anyway. But like you're not going to go see like a comedy. You know?
Yeah, I think it's a little tough to judge whether it's like chicken or the egg on that because like the Hollywood industry has to make their money for it, right? So if they produce a movie for say 50 million bucks, right? They got to make 50 million bucks to break even. So they got to figure out how they're going to do that. Like I think like my wife was commenting on how the movies were the seats themselves are like really high end now. You just go to like the movie theater. Like it's not like you're going like across town into like the swanky district for that like 4DX or some nonsense like that. You're just going to the movie theater that's like a town and a half over. Big lazy boy recliners, big floor space in between to be able to walk past people, like it, and cup holders, the whole 9 yards. There's no bad
Ooh,
seats in
fancy
the
cup
house.
holders.
If you're gonna pay that much more money to go, they have to provide you with like a luxury good experience. Like going to
Right.
the movies now is like it's not like we're bumming around and I got $8 in my pocket, so I'm gonna go to the movies on like a Saturday because I got nothing else to do. Now it's
Right.
like you have to reserve it in advance. It's like going to a Broadway show. You have to reserve your tickets in advance so that you get 3 seats next to each other, and then you're gonna show up and you're gonna buy all this stuff and you're gonna sit in the seats and you're gonna lounge and you're going to be there. And it's like now it's a big experience. It's like the business model has totally changed.
Yeah, the what was it? Place called Movie Tavern. I kind of like kicked that off. That was like the kind of genesis of like those reclining chairs and all that other stuff. Because like, and then all the other local movie theaters like the Regals and the AMC's and whatever kind of had to follow suit. And yeah, I guess that's the way it is now. But I'm still fortunate where like in the town over from us, there's a super old movie theater, and they like purposely don't renovate it, and it's like there's like a
Is it
stage.
a porn theater?
No, there's a stage in front of the
Come on.
screen.
The
So like
stage?
people,
Come on.
yes, the stage, yeah. But so they have other events there. They have like stand up comedy and stuff and whatever. And it's just like exactly like you'd imagine. It's those like crappy fold down seats.
Legs and eggs night. Come on.
No, but yeah, those tickets are still pretty cheap. Those are like you can rent that theater out for and play your own movie and do whatever you want, and that's how they make their money. That's their yeah, exactly. Yes,
That's
Yeah.
amateur night.
yeah, exactly. So live shows, the whole nine. So, but yeah, that's a good juxtaposition though. Like it'd be
Bachelor
fun to take
parties, whatever.
my daughter. No, it'd be fun to take her to go see like Moana 2 in both of those theaters to see the reaction, or another children's movie, so, just to see like, oh, how come we don't get reclining seats in this one? Well, this is how you normally go see a movie.
Or you take her to the crappy one first, and you tell her to clean her room. We go to the nice one.
Yeah, could do that. Yeah, right. I don't think she would care. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see her reaction taking her to like the rundown movie theater, because that place has seen better days.
But
Sorry, complete tangent, but like I feel like all of us are so fortunate, right? And we have like good careers and jobs, and we give our kids the best. They don't understand the crappy movie theaters, the walking around aimlessly because you have nothing to do. You don't have
Right.
a Game Boy, you don't have a tablet. And it's like a little bit infuriating because I want them to have the best. I want them not to suffer. But at the same time, I want them to understand that just because I don't give them tablet, it's not like I'm trying to punish them. I'm just trying to like talk with them.
Right. That's
but that's a generational thing, right? Like your parents were bitching at you for having like whatever the hell in your like whatever you needed in the car to like whatever it was at the time.
On some levels, 100%. But I feel also, at least for us, we came from a little bit of a poorer background. So like things were just like really hard to get by. Like, like our first mattress I ever owned, I got from the trash. Like that's just like in America, we came to America, we didn't have much money. So like that's just, what you did. And I told that story to my daughter and she would not believe it. She'd be like, Dad, you're just making things up.
oh
Like,
man, yeah,
She just doesn't understand. Like people suffer and
Yeah.
struggle and it's not in their
I think you're right, but I think our assholes just puckered a little bit because I'll be honest with you, we didn't do that.
no, but I think Dave, you bring.
I
up a
mean,
really
like
good
it's a
point.
good story. Don't get me wrong, but I'm sorry, but like I don't relate to that level. We weren't like Russian immigrants coming over in a boat. Like I respect that your parents like were, but we weren't quite that.
I think Dave brings up a really good point, though. I think that's a pretty good struggle as to like how do you balance that? How do you balance making your kids comfortable and giving them the life that you want to have for them, but then at the same time letting them understand the actual real struggles that are in the world. Like how do you strike that balance and how do you explain that to kids? Now, granted, like our kids are pretty young, and as they get older, they'll be exposed to more people and more things, and they might start to see things that aren't exactly great, and they'll start to question things and they'll start to think about things, and then that's when I think you can use that as a learning opportunity. But man, yeah, that is something that I think is going to be a challenge for a lot of people now because yeah, like you try to shield them from those things, but at the same time they have to know that they exist. So how do you do that? I don't know the answer to that.
Completely agree. Yep. No, I'm right there with you. I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
we'll see if it's on Trader Dad's
Hmm.
mailing list one day.
Yeah, all right.
I don't know. Well, we were talking about like the oldest kid earlier, and I will say that with the oldest, I have begun to talk with her instead of to her or at her. I will just chat her up like just any old person,
Yeah,
and
like
then
a person that you
whatever
respect, a living
falls out
person.
of her
Yeah,
mouth is what
it's
I
usually
have to go on.
yeah, it's like a person with a real human thoughts. Yeah, that's how kids are. Treating them with respect.
Yeah, but
and
there's a
treating them like
difference in
humans. Yeah.
caliber of conversation. Like there's a
Well,
big difference in what my 4-year-old likes to tell me and what like my almost 8-year-old has to tell me. And
true.
there'll be a
Because,
big difference between the 8-year-old and the 15-year-old, all right?
oh yeah.
My point is like, my 4-year-old comes in and shows me that she got the dress on the doll. Good for
Right.
you. Great. I love it. My 8-year-old comes in and says like your hair
Let's
looks
black tar
stupid.
heroin.
Oh,
Well, I mean, it does. So, I mean, she's right.
Right, but how do I get that to how do I get her to stop saying it? It's so mean.
Well, don't look so
No,
stupid.
but I do. I don't try to get anything out of her. I just like
That's fair.
chit chat with her, and whatever comes out comes out.
You know what I will say. So last podcast, I talked about how we're watching Full House, and I
Yeah.
will say that those '90s sitcoms did bring up some conversation starters for certain scenarios. About how there are certain people in the world that are maybe less fortunate than you, or things like that. And specifically, especially that Thanksgiving just passed, there was an episode where they brought the kids down to like a homeless shelter, and like they talked about their experience there, and like in the show, and they were saying like, oh, how, which like, okay, that actually is a soft way of exposing kids to that concept. Like if they're watching a show that they normally like, whereas like you're not really going to see that on, I don't know what's popular nowadays, like Popstruction. Like you're not gonna get that level of thing. Like, so there's something to be said for those sitcoms where like there was another episode of Full House where like the kid in school, like his dad was beating him, and they like approached that subject, and that was like, okay, well, that's a thing that happens. Obviously, it doesn't happen in this house, obviously, but there are probably children out there that have to go through that, and you know,
When you said beating him, I thought you meant like beating him in games.
no,
Like,
no,
it's not happening at this house.
No,
no,
it was
kids are
like
beating
he was.
me in
He,
any games.
no, he was like he'd like show up to school with like a black eye, and it'd be like,
Right,
"Ah, what
yeah.
happened?" He's like, "Oh, I ran through a doorknob." It was like one of those like motifs.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's yeah. I mean, and fortunately, like we live in an area where I feel like our community is great, and there's not a whole lot of those problems. I'm sure they exist, but they're not up front and center. It's not like we're living in the projects, and where you're hearing people scream at the middle of the night, and you're seeing people drug deals go down and things like that. Like that's completely different. So
You don't know what the suburbs in Charlotte are like.
I don't know what the suburbs in Charlotte are like, but I would imagine that they're very similar to the suburbs in Pennsylvania. Maybe with a little more NASCAR. Well, maybe not actually. probably about the same amount of NASCAR.
There's
a
some
lot of
NASCAR.
screaming
There's some
people.
NASCAR. There is some
Well,
NASCAR.
we have Charlotte Motor Speedway, and then we have the Pocono Raceway. So, like,
That's true. Yeah,
those are
well,
two
we have
massive-
we have the NASCAR Hall of Fame down here. Like you can go into like Charlotte Center. Never been there. Have zero interest in going.
You should go. You got to go, man. You got to do the local touristy stuff.
I don't know. We've talked about this before, but like if like I don't have like quote unquote Southern sports interests like NASCAR or like college football is much bigger down here, but it's not as much in the Northeast. Those types of things. But if my
college
kid
football
like
is
links
something
up with
that you
other
can
kids
start.
who really like it, am I gonna have to like learn all that? Like, am I gonna have
Yes.
to take him when he's 10 to like Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I'm just gonna be like sitting here and be like, "This is fucking awful," watching these cars go around in a circle 500 times.
Yeah, you should. I was at Pocono Speedway, and unfortunately, I'm disappointed that the race got postponed.
Oh, yeah?
I was competing in a hot dog eating contest at the Pocono Speedway,
As
and
one
then
does.
I got free tickets, and the race got postponed. I was very disappointed, but
Don't bury
apparently it's
the
quite an
lead.
experience.
How did you do in the hot dog eating?
Oh, no, not great. It was rough conditions. It was a tough day all around. But this was years ago, so yeah. I think the winner had it was a 40-degree day. Hot dogs are made an hour and a half beforehand. You're sitting out. They're hard. They're crusty. It's really hard to eat them. It's tough. 6 3/4
That was back when he
my-
was in Eaton shape.
Yeah, that's true. That's not even eating shit. That was back in 2016, I think. Yeah, it was 8 years ago. But yeah, I'm an official Major League competitive eater. I'm technically rostered, and I competed in a qualifying event for the Nathan's Hot 4th of July hot dog eating contest. Yeah. So the winner only had 21 that day, and I had 6 3/4. So
So it's
Wow. Not even close.
between first and second.
yeah, but conditions were rough. I was shooting for 10. That was my goal. If I can get to 10, that would be pretty good. But there was
Which would have still left you 50% shy of the win.
Oh well, I wasn't looking to win, man. I was just looking to get the experience. I'm a rookie. I'm not looking to, But now I think I'd have a heart attack.
What was your technique? Were you going 2 hands at a time, like front to back?
Well, to quote Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. And the first bite, I would love to see if somebody had that on video to see what my first bite was, because I realized, oh, I'm in trouble, because those were really hard to eat. The first bite, like I had to like,
Were they dry?
Well, it was 40 degrees outside, so they were made an hour and a half ago, and it was raining. So the buns were stale. The casing was dried out. It was like almost ripping beef jerky. It was like it was tough. It was rough. It was
The guy that ate 21 did not have those excuses. I feel like you just didn't even try to eat hot dogs.
Yeah,
beforehand. You went in
you're
there
right.
like, oh, this is a hot dog. Sorry, guys. I only got 6 of it.
6 3/4. Get right. But no, yeah, that was. But yeah, no, but to back to what we're talking about though, yeah, like when you have other kids there, yeah, like you're gonna have to go sit in Charlotte Motor Speedway and do that kind of stuff if your kid's into that stuff, and that's just what you're gonna have to do. You think our dad like going to soccer tournaments?
I sure didn't.
No, yeah, exactly. It's it sucks, but you do what you got to do. So
I know. Well, we're definitely not going to be the type of parents who are like those like I'm not paying like $2,500 to let her go to a camp for 2 weeks because it'll give her a marginal advantage in like collegiate recruitment. It's just not going to happen.
Dude, there's some crazy stories I hear. I was talking to a parent that's like similar to my age, and they have a kid that's playing the harp, and they're like in like first or second grade, and they did it for a talent show. A harp, right? very notoriously hard instrument to play. And one of the other parents was like, "Oh, like why'd you choose the harp?" They're like, "Well, because no one else is going to play the harp, so they'll get into college because they'll be the only ones getting a harp scholarship."
Hmm.
It's not the
And that's like,
craziest thing.
yeah, that's just like the norm. Like some kids are doing taekwondo like 24/7 because they're gonna planning to get a taekwondo scholarship. It's absurd the level of competition in this area for kids to go to school in which they're nowhere near school age, and
Right.
it's like a very high like first or second generation foreigners. So
Hmm.
it's like lots of like tiger parents out there.
It's tough. That's unfortunate. That's a
That's
shame.
that's interesting. Yeah, because I don't know many people who are that deliberately on point, to be honest with you. But I am also aware that they're out there.
Yeah,
So to hear like an actual example is always useful. Like it's cool. Like oh, it's like people are really are like that. They are doing like a harp, whatever, a harp scholarship makes sense. I mean, I'm one to talk. I said my kid's going to be the kicker in the football team. It's just the same thing, just not to the same like
But,
extreme
but
degree.
but how many kickers are out there that also play the bassoon? You know, you know,
That's true.
that's if it comes down because I mean, there's the Trader Dad podcast is catching fire. You think how many other kids are going to be kickers now that your kid's going to have competition against. You got to do something to separate them. Kicker, bassoon, and then he can speak Klingon. That's it's pretty hard to do.
It's the
there's a lot of
trifecta.
Klingon scholarships out there, so that
Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
yeah, it's well, if you want a well-rounded student body, you got to get the Klingon.
You know, one of the market things that people like to kind of hop onto every once in a while is college endowments, like what the college, like big, like Harvard. Harvard, I don't even know what Harvard's endowment is right
They're very
now.
well endowed.
They are very well endowed at Harvard. Um, but because those are
Imagine.
big buy side firms essentially, right? Like all the investment bankers who are doing like IPOs are trying to like get like Harvard to buy into some of it because Harvard's got the cash. So I've also been I posted about like Scott Galloway who just came out with a new book and he's an NYU professor and one of these like he does the rounds on all these podcasts and he says something great. He says, you know, the endowment's gone up like, 400 or 500% over the last like 2 decades, but like the enrollment rate, like the amount of people they're letting in as a percentage has gone down over that time. So now it's gotten like even though they have significantly more money, they have significantly fewer people that are being accepted, even though so many more are applying.
Hmm.
And his point is basically like, why the fuck don't they just buy more dorms?
That is an interesting thing. So
It's like this.
our
It's like he said it, and it like shattered my brain. He's like, "Why the fuck don't they just buy more dorms and
That's
admit
like
more
saying,
people?"
that is exactly what Lehigh is doing. So Lehigh is in the process of trying to figure. They put out their projections, and they are going to realize that they are going to have a bed shortage. So they're in the process of trying to build more dorms.
Because they're
So
admitting more people. They're
correct.
growing the university
Yes,
enrollment.
they're
That's
growing
the
the
point.
university. That's exactly what they're doing. Yeah. So something that hits a little close to home for the three of us is that they're like the thing that we always talked about was that they're eventually Lehigh is going to start just demolishing the fraternity houses and the sorority houses. Well, they're actively doing that. They're slowly creeping up the hill from the Sayer gates and just doing those things. So when we were there, DG was down there like right at the Sayer gates. They took that down and put 3 high capacity dorms in. So now they're in the process of looking at what they're doing, as they slowly move up the hill. That's happening because all that prime real estate on campus is
That's a different issue. I mean, that's an interesting issue for sure. But like trashing Greek life down at the university to make way for more like non-Greek housings and such. It's an interesting culture point. But like what I was saying more about the other thing, like that's how they keep like Harvard as an elite institution and a brand, which
yeah,
that's sort of like what's going on there. So it's like the kid who needs the harp scholarship to get into Harvard
right.
wouldn't need a harp scholarship if they just built more fucking dorms. They just let in like an extra 1,000 kids a year to diffuse some of it even. They're still like the top brass, but like it doesn't make sense that they're hoarding all of the money is his main point. And it's an interesting point, which I never really conceded. Is like, what is the intent of that money? Like, why are you hoarding it if not to use it for something? It's an interesting like thought exercise.
Yeah,
just like in terms of just like a brand, like you said it basically, like they're a luxury brand, right? They're like
Oh, I
a
get
Cartier.
that.
Why
That's what
doesn't
they are. They're trying to be a luxury brand, but the case is like why like don't call yourself an institution of like higher learning and like you know what I mean if you're really just trying to keep like learning in and like elite, you
yeah.
know what I
Well,
mean? It's like let's not kid ourselves. Some of the schools down here, they're basically minor league football teams.
oh yeah, yeah.
Right? Like it's kind of the same thing. Like it's that's their business model. It's like we are just minor league football teams down here trying to like get the recruitment up to get people into the NFL. That's what some of the schools down here are.
yeah,
It's the same type of business. It's just like the business model other than academics is really what it is across the board for like all of it.
right.
I mean, they probably justify it to themselves as saying, we're using the money to influence like what is being developed or being led. Like we've stopped investing in gas or whatever, and we're using that money to invest in our future solar or whatever. But yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, it's like, what do you use that money for? What do you need $10 billion for if you're not going to be using it? I don't know. MIT just recently came out and they said they're not charging anyone any tuition. I think it's like below $200,000 if their family makes more than $200,000 or less than $200,000 because their endowment's so large and it's just growing at a faster rate than.
See, that's the opposite. They're like trying to do. They're like it's like a
Yeah.
progressive tax system for like education in that regard.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head though. It definitely comes down to the collegiate business plan, right? And it basically seems to me like Harvard at this point. If that's all accurate, then they're not like a higher institution. They're a business, and they're looking to keep their brand, and that's what their business brand is. They're not in the
100%.
business of education. They're in the business of whatever the Harvard brand, and that's so they're lining the pockets of all those people. Now MIT in the exact opposite side. Good for them. That's awesome. That they're trying to help out people that are trying to get a great education at a great school and trying to make it better. So there's I
Or
don't know,
they
there-
just get their
there's
money from defense contractor patents. Could be that too.
awesome. So there's
You only have to kill like a million brown people, and
Hmm.
then the money just comes in for free.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
So the first time I had ever heard of a college that was free was a friend of mine went to a naval architecture and engineering school on the North Shore of Long Island called Webb, and there was like 100 kids total at the college, and it was this guy Webb at this mansion, and when he died, he had so much money, and his endowment was so large that they could continue building that wealth, pay all the teachers, pay all the staff on the grounds for free, and just let every kid who gets in there for free. So if you got in there,
Sounds like he went to Xavier's school for gifted kids. Like he's in the X-Men.
basically, yeah. So literally, they lived in a mansion, and their dorms were like the servant quarters. So like that's where the dorms were, and then they literally it was just this massive mansion complex, which was crazy, and there was like 100 kids total. So it was pretty surreal.
The thing about that is like that there were only 100 kids there because probably like 99.9% of people have no idea that it even exists.
Correct. You have to really know the naval architecture engineering world too.
Like you got to know like a naval engineering architect.
Yeah, well, yeah, you really got to like, and that's what you want to do because like that shit's not easy. and then also like I think like their junior year they have to like spend like at sea, like on a boat, like a naval ship, like a merchant marine kind of thing. Like it's not easy.
Like
It's
they swab the decks and like tie knots and
well, yeah, but I mean being at sea for 6
hoist the
months when you're
jibs.
20 is not great. Like that's tough. It's difficult.
Do the dropout? Let's
But
say
yeah,
you
that's the first
drop
time I've
out
heard
of
of it.
web. Let's say you like can't hack it. Do you end up on like below deck on Bravo?
I don't know. My one friend did leave Web.
Oh.
He decided it wasn't for him, and he decided I'm out, and he went to Rutgers. Yeah. So
Wow,
what he
that's a
did.
good story.
Yeah.
So, but
I'm sorry, I just have one thing about Rutgers. I have some people that like teach there and so forth. It's getting really competitive. Like,
Rutgers is
to
really
get
good
into
school.
Rutgers even. Yeah.
Rutgers has become a very good school. And like I mean, we're all Lehigh guys, so but and Lehigh's a good school too. But like,
I'm barely a Lehigh guy. I got in. I petitioned to get in off the wait list for a long time.
whatever.
But I got into Rutgers. I got into Lafayette, and then I got waitlisted at Lehigh.
Well, once they found out Lafayette wanted you, they changed their tune.
No, they didn't. They didn't care. I put a deposit down for Lafayette.
Oh, that's true. You did. Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
yeah. What were you saying, Dave?
Nothing. I was just surprised at how competitive Rutgers is now.
Yeah.
That people from like very good schools are having a difficult time getting accepted to Rutgers, and I mean, I love that. Right? That's like the type of institution that's great if it's doing well and it's they're not accepting people because there's so many people coming in and so competitive and such a good program. Versus like a place like Harvard, where like I mean, obviously you want to go there, but like to your point, they're obviously trying to gate people from coming in, right? As opposed to Rutgers, where it's like we're trying to get as many people as we can, and we're doing great, but like we just only have so much resources that we can put to it.
Right.
Some of the schools have legitimate tactics though that make a lot of like pragmatic sense that like I would support, right? So like I think Rutgers started to get a lot of notoriety first through their graduate MBA program. Because I remember going around and seeing like signs for that for like 2 or 3 years. They had like a great MBA program at Rutgers, blah, 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 blah. Well, those people go and get the MBA at Rutgers. Then they go across the river into Wall Street or into just Manhattan and into business there. Then let them matriculate for a few years. And then people start like, comes back around where people start saying, oh, Rutgers, like I know a guy who went there. That's a good school, blah, blah, blah. And it takes like, there's a delayed cycle for it, but it starts to like kick on. And 10 years later, now Rutgers undergrad feels like a hot commodity because they had all these MBAs for 10 years out on Wall Street. Stevens in Hoboken, which is where I got my grad degree, their whole bit was like night school. That's like they offered all their grad school classes at night so that people who work during the day could shoot across the river and go at night. And that's their model. They're just all these urban professionals are like showing up in like, after work to take classes there. That was their model. And so like there's some of them have very pragmatic things that work and like drive the tuition traffic and all that.
I think that's probably what's going to be right. Like, there's been like the thought of like democratizing the like learning process, right? Like not having a institution that is like you're so beholden to, and like online or whatever other type of program. So there's probably going to have to be some sort of niche, right? Like your catch. And I think I read this year
I'm a
that
catch.
the surprising amount of schools, college, higher education schools, have been going under in the last couple of years
What
because
type?
people are, yeah, because people are foregoing school or college specifically
Mm,
because it's such a high investment cost and not necessarily a large return. So like trade schools are picking back up and stuff like that.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, yeah. One of the we've talked about the programs that I figured out the counties have here for the kids in high school. They can start right into vocational programs that are like in demand, and then they have linkages out to like the big companies. So, for example, they have like an avionics program where you can start learning like about airplanes in high school. You then translate those credits into like the end of a 4 year degree, but then at the end of that, they have like connections to like Delta and like United Airlines and stuff to like get you on that path. So like that's a really good thing that some people have, and it's all vocational. None of it is technically going to a 4 year degree and applying. You're on the path much earlier, and it's like more of apprenticeships.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to throw the buzzword AI around, but as possibly as that takes off, right, it's like really hitting the marketing world and other kind of specific industries, maybe not as globally as people thought. They might not be able to get jobs in those professions, so it makes more and more sense to go to something that's a vocational, like more hands-on stuff that AI can't replace.
Yeah, Gen
Yeah, there's
Z
going
is
to be
definitely involved with that. I think that's a lot of their motto right now, at least like by headline standards. Like that's what you hear on it.
yeah. It seems like the pendulum is very much swinging back the other way, where physical in-person work is going to be something that's going to be obviously much harder for AI to you know kick out. Like somebody sits behind a computer, that stuff is most likely going to be phased out in the next 25, 30 years, because all that stuff is going to just be automated. But somebody who has to physically do something is going to be what it's going to be. It's crazy how technology has gotten so much to the point where we've almost gone backwards, where it's like, oh, I got to go to the factory and press the buttons and do those things.
Like
And
George Jetson.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like physically, like healthcare is a big one. Um, Construction is always going to be a big one. There's always going to be things physically do things in construction. But yeah, you bring up a good point with like maintenance. Maintenance is going to be a big factor. It seems like in terms of maintaining machinery, maintaining electronics, maintaining all that stuff is going to be, I think, probably the next wave. It's going to be a lot of just maintenance techs and things like that. So you can get going on that. It's good living.
Let's not forget about the sex robots.
Well, you got to maintain the sex robots too, So so yeah, that's go down to the theater.
I think another area that's going to survive. Another area that I think is going to survive, and it's the direction I'm beginning to drift towards, is like governance and compliance. I think like the idea of governance and compliance is going to move like up office. Like, so you're familiar with like front office versus back office, right? So front office is like they're the money guys who, they're the hotshot traders or the investment bankers. You have middle office, which is risk, and then you have like back office, which is like operations and, accounts payable and all that bullshit. And at the very end of back office, you'd always have the compliance guy. They make the joke in Boiler Room a lot, how the compliance guy was just sitting in the back room, like reading the paper. But I think like as AI processes kick in and take over a lot of the actual workload, then the overseeing of that to ensure that the AI's behaviors mesh with how we want it to like behave as is going to become sort of like the human kill switch on like an AI process going forward. So I do think like governance and compliance, the idea of like setting the stage for how we're going to let this thing operate, that idea is going to start to move to the front office as being more of like an integral part of the organization. So that's kind of what I've been thinking about it, and that's kind of why I'm kind of I'm drifting more into technology governance in my day-to-day now, because I think that's going to be a place where there is like staying power for a while. Could be wrong, could be fired next year. It happens a lot to me. But for now, that's my game plan with it.
Have you seen a lot of AI take over? Not obviously large stuff, but like segments in your kind of banking world?
So there's what I think is really AI, and then there's what I think they're calling AI. So like your chat bot on the website, it's like that's like crappy like Llama 2 like mid-tier engines at best, I think. In terms of reduction of actual headcounts due to AI in banking, I have yet to see a material impact. For two reasons. I think one, the headcount reductions in banking that happened in like 22 and 23 were more due to the change in interest rates. When the rates kicked up and bonds crashed in 22 and 23, a lot of banks had to like sew up their expenses and lay people off. So that was a financial reason and nothing to do with technology. When banks do upgrades, they do them over life cycles. So regardless of when the actual technology comes out, they're at best going to do it at the next end of life and end of phase juncture for whatever system they have in place. And that can vary considerably because of so much compliance in banking specifically. So the short answer is like the best I've heard is like, oh, we use a new AI program to like clean up a database and get rid of like all the dupes, like it's just junk like that. Stuff that's like one step higher than Excel work. Nothing that's like, it's not like they're closing out their accounts receivable department because now there's just like a big machine that sits there. It's nothing like that I've seen yet. And I think.
How about you, Tom? Oh, sorry.
No, I'm saying that's my spiel.
Yeah, no, we talked about this on a previous podcast where I was surprised at how quickly I was seeing, AI things taking foothold in what I do in civil engineering, which I was surprised by. A lot of it is more so like I do a lot of site layout, and what you could do is basically you punch in a bunch of rules, right, and you put like a site parameter in, and then a program theoretically lay it out for you, which is saves a lot of time, effort, energy. And the big thing that we deal with is a lot of like physical land moving, so grading, right? And a lot of that is trying to make the site balanced, cut fills and things like, because import or export materials a lot of money, there's a lot of things like that. So people are trying to develop a lot of tools where they can implement AI to kind of basically run through your design and then try to optimize it as best you can given the site parameters that you have. And that's something that I saw years ago, and things are starting to progress forward in terms of a lot of that. So that's been kind of on the forefront of something that I've seen, which is surprising as to how quickly things have picked up and how quickly people are trying to implement things.
So I'm from the programming world. That's like predominantly where I do things, and everyone's talking about AI programming replacing like junior level coders, right? They always talk about how the architects won't be gone because the junior level it's like complicated. There's complicated things, but the junior level coders, like just writing like the nuts and bolts of the code, can be really done by AI. And I see so many tools out there, and I want to use these tools, but I also want to meet someone from a programming world that uses it, so it can give me a vouch. Like I know, Hunter. He says he uses programming. Every single programmer I talk to says they don't use them, but they see the potential. They always say like, "Oh, it looks amazing," blah blah blah. So I think either my generation, like I'm old, I guess now, right? We've missed the boat, and we're just not jumping onto these new AI tools enough, or that there's all this buzz about AI tools, and everyone sees what it could be, but it's just not there yet, and it's being used in very limited roles still. And I can't get a feel for it.
Going back to what you're saying with the movie theater thing, we're not the target demographic. We're not the ones going through college right now with those tools at our disposal where we're learning how to do those things in college, So the people that are going to be using those tools to learn how to code and do those things, those are going to be people that when they get into the workforce, we're going to be utilizing those things in the workforce.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a piece of it. I like what Dave said about how
a lot of tools. He sees a lot of tools.
Cool. No, about the no, I lost my train of thought. But David made a good point earlier. Generationally, it's a big difference. That's I agree. I missed the boat on it. Like I have to think to use ChatGPT. My default is to Google. Like I think that's the best succinct way of saying it. I'm the generation that Googled, but a 22-year-old is probably going to be like an AI, like whatever, ChatGPT is everything or whatever the fuck, and that'll be the difference. I think that's kind of maybe like it in a nutshell.
It's so depressing. Like we're literally seeing what happened to our like parents or grandparents generation, and we understand it, but we can't jump onto it. I feel like
hey. Like, I host a podcast. Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as our kids get older,
we'll like Creed from The Office when he puts. That's what I am. Like changing career tracks and everything.
The perfect cartwheel. That's all you need.
Yeah, there you go. But I think as our kids get older and they're more exposed to those things, like in school and things like that, I think that's when we'll start to be like, oh, okay, we can figure this out. And then because there'll be a necessity for us to understand it more so than just doing it on a side project or something like that. When there's a need, that's when we'll figure it out. So
that actually brings up an interesting point. Does it make sense to hire young people that don't have that much experience in the like established industry, because we could be learning from them? Like we should be bringing people in to basically push us. I don't know. Random thought. We don't even need to talk about it. Just pop this back.
Well, the counterpoint is like you're talking about it. You're getting into like one of our favorite topics, like things like return to office and how much you learn like soft skills and stuff like that for. So as the technical skill sets change, like prompt engineering for a 23-year-old is probably like knowing like SQL for someone our age. You know what I mean? Like being a good SQL guy is going to be like being a good prompt engineering guy. That'll be like the next version of it. That's fine, right? Like then people, but like if when you were an SQL guy, there's a lot more to your job than just like knowing SQL. Like you have to understand how like to do a job and how to talk to people and all that stuff. So that's going to be an interesting thing. And people who are opposed to the idea of getting AI involved with all that stuff also makes the point where you'll run out of people who understand it deeply. Like if you have to struggle through and build the thing, then or deal with it from a nuts and bolts level, you develop the knowledge base for it. It's like how old cars you used to be able to fix, right? Because they were like pieces of metal that you could like take a screwdriver to. Today they are like basically high-tech computers, and if something breaks, you're helpless. You can't like replace the microchips for it. So a lot of people like don't know how cars work anymore. Like a lot of people just don't know how a car works anymore, like a modern car. The problem then is what happens when there's no more people who do know. Like, like no one's learning how modern cars work. You're gonna have a problem down the road. So that's kind of the counterpoint of it. For things like law, like all the doc review it does, like AI can run through a document and fix it all up for people. Well, eventually people won't remember how to do that shit. It'll be like a lost art, like handwriting, because
Hmm.
like, they just don't know how to do all that shit anymore. And there aren't that many people who do.
Yeah, and like AI is so confident, right? They just tell you like this is the answer, right? But sometimes they just make things up or are completely wrong. So it's like if you're lacking that knowledge, you can't even double check it because you'd be like, well, that's what it said. How am I
Right.
supposed to know otherwise?
You're right. You lose your subject matter expertise over time and you commodify. That's what it is. So it becomes much lower level. It's like in 1994, if you knew how to make a web page, you could be paid like 100 grand, 200 grand to do that job. Today, it's like, just click the button. And then
Yeah.
it just kind of takes everything and does it. Like it doesn't exist as a thing anymore because it's been so commoditized. So yeah, that's where you got to keep fighting to find the things that aren't commoditized to keep your skills up and all that shit. That's why I have a podcast.
Hmm.
Do
But
you consider yourself like working in the banking industry and have a podcast, or do you consider yourself a podcaster that kind of works in the banking
no, I
industry?
100% have a 9 to 5 job in like the banking industry, and I trade it primarily. Actually, when I get really busy at work, then I can't. Some of the posts and all start to suffer because yeah, I got my priorities straight. Believe me. Um,
Just in case Katie's watching.
no, everybody knows. Everybody knows. No, I have my
Yeah,
priorities
yeah.
straight. I know where I have to give my attention to. But that doesn't mean we still can't have fun doing this. Yeah. So I appreciate you being here this month. We're coming up on our time. I usually like to I had no idea where this was gonna go. This is the first time we've done 3 people virtually. So it was ups and downs, left and rights. Somehow we didn't talk about 9/11, which I guess is an
Well, there's still
upswing.
time. There's still time.
Yeah.
I did have one thing that
About 9/11? Go ahead.
no, I wanted to ask is what's your favorite holiday movie and why? Real quick.
We're gonna go into like double after the close. Okay.
Uh,
So my favorite Christmas movie. My favorite one is It's a Wonderful Life for
it has to be
all of the things about.
holiday. There's other movies out there. It's not just Christmas movies.
But I watched a Muppets Christmas Carol with my kids yesterday,
Mhm.
and we just sat and watched it because like
That's classic.
they're at the right age for Muppets, and I always liked that one. It's actually really good.
We watch that every year.
Yeah, it's a great one. I was laughing at one particular. I mean, there's a lot of things that were funny, but it's also really good because he's like a money changer. You know what I mean? Like that's what Scrooge is. He's a British loan shark. He's like a
Yeah.
legal British loan shark. That's what Ebenezer Scrooge did.
Right.
He would charge like these ridiculous like usury rates for people. And then he would just like drain them until they're poor whenever they took a loan out against him. That's what he did for a living. Um but in the Muppets Christmas Carol, Kermit the Frog stands up in front of the table and toasts the Christmas goose to his boss, Ebenezer Scrooge. Like, thank you, the founder of the feast, he calls them. And I was laughing. I was like, I would never like toast my boss. You know what I mean? Like that's such a weird. That's like how the end of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation ends, where the boss shows up, and it's like, am I missing something? Like, is this just something you do? Should I be like toasting my boss like on Christmas dinner? I don't know.
Well, I mean, he's the one who gave you the money to provide the Christmas dinner.
No, that was
So,
my wife.
well, then you should be toasting your boss or what?
I said I was going to toast her boss,
There you go.
which she did not find amusing. But I said I'll toast her boss every Christmas for giving her the money.
There you go. But okay, so to answer the question, it's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, I said it at the top.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you answer the question and talk about another movie for 5 minutes. Great. Good.
Because that's what you want. I've talked about It's a Wonderful Life before. I've like written about It's a Wonderful Life before. I remember I like It's a Wonderful Life.
Dave, do you have one? Do you have a favorite holiday movie?
I'm like it. There's just I think a lot of really good ones. That's such a cop out, but like okay, you got to go with like the one that everyone likes, Love Actually. I mean, you also had a thing about that too on Trader Dad's, right?
Wow,
Special productions on the YouTube
wasn't-
page. Special
Wasn't on
productions.
my radar.
What?
That wasn't on my radar for the list.
Special. I'm just saying, special productions on the YouTube page. Love Actually, Christmas 2022.
It's a favorite. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, overdone, but like people love it. I love all the Muppet movies. My favorite one was Treasure Island.
That's not a Christmas movie, though.
No. I know. Sorry, I just maybe think about it. And Nightmare Before Christmas. Such a. Really
I don't
good-
like that one. I've never liked that one.
Huh.
No.
Okay, nice. That was another one that wasn't really on the top of my head, because a lot of people will say like they like Elf, and they like I like Tim Allen's Santa Claus. I enjoy that one.
Yeah.
I enjoy that one. I think that's a solid. Like I find myself watching that at some point every holiday season for whatever reason. Like it's just like every scene just seems like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good scene. It's an all around well good movie. I think that would probably be tops on my list. I mean, Elf is obviously on there. Then Jingle All the Way gets some mentions.
Yeah.
That's a quality one. But so this came up where we were trying to figure out movies to watch with the kids, and some of the movie premises are not exactly great. Specifically, Jingle All the Way, where it's trying to find a toy.
What's wrong? Wait, what's wrong with that?
Oh, it raises some questions. Right?
I mean,
okay. I didn't know you were going. Okay, I get where you're going with that. Well,
Nope.
That'll happen.
Yeah. But yeah. So the other question I was going to ask was, what holiday movie dad do you think did the best job?
Like as an actor or as an actual father to their kids?
I would say I was thinking more from like a lens of being a father in the movie.
Tim Allen in the Santa Claus turns out pretty good.
Yeah.
George Bailey is solid.
So like the question is like Kevin McAllister's dad. Like, how do you rate that?
Yeah, he's at the bottom. He's at the bottom.
Yeah,
of the list.
he's at the bottom. Yeah. And then how do you rate I can't remember the actor's name in Elf, the father in Elf.
James
like,
Caan.
James Caan, yeah. Like
I mean, James Caan is Sonny Corleone, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, right. But yeah, that was the thing I was thinking about for the podcast was, like thinking about like the father roles in those things and how those guys played out in like the father movies, like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, like him putting the lights up and doing all the things, and like how did that stack up in terms of the other holiday movie dads? Like trying to rank them, who would be the best holiday movie dad?
I feel like a trope that pretty much every Hollywood movie does is the dad's always a buffoon, right? Like he has kind of a heart of gold, but he can never do anything right. Even if he's successful in business, like Elf's dad, right? He doesn't understand like what a parent even is. Like that's not even a concept across his mind. So like fathers are just like, you're lucky that you haven't murdered your kid yet. Congratulations, you're a good dad.
But then so then that brings up Jingle All the Way. Like how does he rank? He becomes Turbo Man.
But really only to get back with his ex-wife, right?
I guess they were on the rocks. I don't know if they actually got divorced in that movie. I haven't watched it in a while.
I forget now. I thought he was divorced and he was trying to get back with her because she was like with the neighbor or something.
I think the neighbor was trying to make a move on her.
Got it.
Yeah.
Misremembering.
But
All right. Well,
holiday questions that I thought would be fun to talk about. But
all right. Well, this is dropping on December. December 20th. It's today. So, wish everybody a happy holidays, happy New Year. We'll be back in January with Thomas, and we'll see who's going to be with us, if anyone. I don't know yet. Dave, anything you'd like to say before we sign off? Any last parting words?
It's a pleasure being on the podcast, and it was great being the cream and the Serpico cookie.
Well, no, that's not how you get invited back. Thomas?
No. Have a good holiday.
All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. That was fun.